In Other News is made possible with the financial support of Ariel Investments and John Rogers and generous Chicagoans like you. Thank you.
Welcome to In Other News. I am your host, Robin Robinson. Here we try to tell the stories that you might not have heard or you might not have heard them this exact way. We go by three pillars: truth, fun, and blackness. Our backstory today: have you ever encountered a young black boy or a teenager that you just know in your heart needs a hug? But he needs a hug every day, and more than a hug, because chances are he's dealing with a lot. As an African-American youngster, he's overrepresented in all the wrong places: homelessness, justice involvement, violence, truancy. The risk factors are off the charts for our black boys and young men. We do a lot of parent blaming when a young person gets in trouble. Well, sometimes the parents are absent or maybe at the mercy of their own traumas. But it's also true that even boys with attentive parents often seem to listen more to other voices. Mom and dad just kind of that blah, blah, blah in the background. My guest tonight has made it his business to ensure those other voices are talking sense and sharing wisdom, that they can relate to the young men and can help expose them to the wider world far beyond their neighborhoods. CHAMPS Male Mentoring is doing amazing work, and it's about to do even more. The founder of CHAMPS has just been tapped by President Obama's foundation for an expanded role in shaping our young men for the future. We hear the bad news all too often. Let's hear what Vondale Singleton has going on in Other News right after this break.
Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton. Join me Mondays at 7 p.m. as I sit in conversation with incredible, dynamic, and complex Chicagoans who peel back the layers, living lessons, the joy, and the pain behind their confident smiles. Join the conversation Mondays at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and CAN-TV Plus app.
The lead story on most newscasts very often has to do with some act of violence or harm committed by some young black person. But this is In Other News, and our lead story tonight is about solutions to that issue. The founder of CHAMPS Male Mentoring, Vondale Singleton. Welcome. I love to talk with you because you always have something that kind of opens my eyes to the possibilities. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
You're not honored, you are honoring us with your work. So CHAMPS Male Mentoring. First, does CHAMPS stand for anything like
Yes,
CHAMPS? What is it?
Culturally helping and making positive success.
I like that. You didn't try to make it too short. I mean, because you got a lot of work that you're trying to encompass in that. Tell me, how did you you founded an organization, now you find yourself shepherding 400 young people. What the heck were you thinking, right? And what made you want to do that?
You know, their stories need to be told. I wanted to give opportunities to young people that look like me. I didn't have many opportunities. I came from a mom who struggled with a crack cocaine addiction. Grew up in a Bronzeville community. Lost my mom when she was only 29. I was 15 when she passed away. And my father, of course, you know, he tried to do the best that he could. He got incarcerated, put in prison. I became a ward of the state. So technically, I wasn't supposed to live or make it past 18. And it was through the power of mentorship that changed my worldview, my life, and gave me the opportunity. And all I simply wanted to do was pay it forward.
So you knew it could work because it worked for you.
Yes, it's very personal for me, the work that I do every day in terms of mentorship. Somebody gave me that blueprint and showed me what was possible. Mm-hmm. And when I called Steve Robertson when I was 22, getting ready to graduate as the first one out of my family, I said, what do I need to do to pay you back for what you did for me?
This was your mentor?
This was my mentor.
Okay.
And he said, the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. That's how you pay me back.
And was he a mentor as part of a mentoring program, or, you know, sometimes we accidentally...
He was at Marquette University. He was the director for the EOP SAM, Science and Mathematics program at the time. I think the name has changed. Okay. But he allowed me to be in that program, and I saw, you know, my life on another side, and that was going away from my environment or what I saw as a young kid to see, hey, there is hope, there is life. but it came through mentorship.
And you ended up going to Oral Roberts University.
Yes.
And so, were you kind of, I don't want to say unicorn, but were there very many, young black men from the south side of Chicago there?
But that was the exposure I got through my mentor. He asked me, he said, "You ever heard of Oral Roberts University?" I said, "Who?" I said, "Where is that?" He said, "Tulsa, Oklahoma."
Woo.
I'm gonna take the group, to a trip, college weekend trip, and I'd like for you to go. And I went, and I was like, whoa, this is totally different, but it was the place where I believe God would allow me to go. I met my wife there, got married, was an education major, and again, just wanted to make a difference like he did in my life.
And so you're an education major, and you came back and became a teacher.
Yes.
And where did you teach, and for how long?
So my first teaching job was at a place called Darrell Lynn Hines Academy. That was in 2002. And my wife, she actually taught next door. We were engaged at the time. We both had, like I said, education majors. And from that story, again, we wanted to just impact young people like we were impacted. So became a dean, assistant principal. My wife is a school principal here in Chicago. But it's been a journey, and it hasn't been an easy journey, but it's a journey worth living for.
So from being within the school system, you felt you could make more impact, not in those, because it's confining. There's only so much that you can do, and there are some things that are supposed to be being done that actually are not.
Sure.
I think you and I were talking about SEL, social emotional learning, which was on the books in the state that every school had to have it. It was on the books for 10 years before anybody had it.
Yes.
So it was good words, but it wasn't really working. And you base a lot of what you do on your emotional IQ and raising that, right? How does that, what's that look like?
Yeah, so social emotional learning was something that I saw was a gap, not being taught through the academic situation inside of the school building. And so because the young men, I was the assistant principal of discipline at that time, they would end up in my office for getting in trouble due to behavior for whatever reasons. And I noticed something, Robin. It was a story there. When I would ask a young man, "Why are you in my office? What happened?" You know what the story was? It was a father story. I don't know my father. My father's locked up or dead. And that was about 90% of the young men that ended up in my office. So I said I had to do something to shore up this gap, because if they are dealing with these issues within the school, it's something missing. And so that's where social emotional learning and CHAMPS really came to life 11 years ago. Something
that you had to get away from that, the confines of being the discipline vice principal. And discipline generally means, and particularly in America, punishment. So focused on punitive responses that you never get to that conversation that lets you know what's leading to this behavior.
Absolutely.
So, and you know, I've also had some great conversations about your commitment to restorative justice, which is exactly that, which is to address all sides of the harmful behavior. Like, if you say, "I don't care why you did it," well, then you don't care to really stop it.
Exactly.
So you sit in circle with these young men? Do you,
Oh yeah, we do a lot of circles, a lot of conversations, peace circles, restorative justices, but really giving them a voice to air out their frustrations and the trauma, because that trauma lives inside the body. And when it's not dealt with appropriately, you begin to act out abnormally. And there are consequences that lead to the school to prison pipeline. So if a kid can't read by 3rd grade, we know the chances for them to end up in the school to prison pipeline is super high. So yes, we want to engage them while they're young.
So I noticed there are multiple mentoring programs, but there's also research about the right way to mentor. I have to admit that I had one for girls, from 5th to 8th grade at Whitworth Elementary School, and we did it for 5 years.
Wow.
And when we had to stop, it's because the principal left, and the new principal was not buying into this. What's this circle stuff you're doing? What's this? And I felt like I abandoned them. Because I could not reach them. It's not like I could call their house or something, because that was not allowed under the CPS rules. But they say you should not be a mentor unless you're going to commit to it for a period of time. Can't just be a year.
Sure.
So what do your mentors do?
Consistency, consistency, consistency.
Okay.
That's what I preach, that's what I teach, that's what I live. And once I started the program, I said, I'm gonna have to die being a mentor. I'm gonna be 85 years old, still a CHAMPS mentor.
Right. Going to their weddings and graduations
Yeah.
and things, though, that'll be the good part.
And that's the powerful thing, is when you start to see that these seeds are growing because of the words and the modeling and the exposure and the empowerment and the education and the camaraderie, community, and brotherhood, which is one of our pillars. We preach brotherhood and consistency. Hey, this is family here. And you know, one of our pillars is unconditional love. It's like when you mess up, we don't kick you out the program. We have a way for you to get back. Now, if you don't want to be part of the program, that's cool, but we're going to give you every reason for you to stay with this program, because again, it's creating this environment of brotherhood, of love, of community, and it's really beautiful to watch.
Oh, I bet. So when did you know, when did you realize, okay, I'm on to something and this is working?
I knew like the first few weeks of actually starting the program, because we started a Saturday program, but even before we got to Saturday program, we did something called Academic Lab. And it was throughout the day with a small group, and we had young ladies and young men in the class. And we created this environment again for them to, like, who are you? What are you? Why are you? Tell us your story. I want to know your story. And again, it was a father's story there.
Wow.
We found that many of the young people we were reaching or trying to reach, it was a lack of a positive male role model.
And I want to be clear that we're not blaming the fathers for
We're
that,
not
because there's
blaming
a lot of
but
circumstances.
we have to be truthful
Yes.
about their story.
Right.
And so I said, I have a role to play in filling this gap. And my role was to start a program, make it open and available to everybody. And it was on a Saturday. It was a Saturday. And so once we started to come in, we took the boys skating. That was our first trip to MLK on Racine. It was 8 boys. We took them skating. Then Monday, they went and told their peers. Mr. Singleton took us skating. We went skating. And there was other young men coming up to me saying, what about me? Why I didn't get invited?
You had a whole skate
I like
team
to
by the
skate.
time it's over, right?
Exactly. So I said, let's come back out. And within weeks, it went from 8 to 65 boys.
Wow.
Like a matter of 1 week, 2 weeks on a Saturday.
So then you needed some help.
Needed some help. We had teachers, we had deans, we had coaches.
Wow.
Started to give their time freely, because organically we saw a move happening where we were covering. And when we started to count all of the neighborhoods, just with the 65 young men, there was 22 neighborhoods represented within that community. Many of the neighborhoods where we not used to seeing them working together, they were working together. We were doing what we call Super Saturday Study. They were bringing in their homework. They were mentoring and tutoring one another. It was really peer mentoring going on, and we were just facilitators, really.
That's amazing. That had to be a great feeling for you.
Yes.
In nonprofits, right? So now you're official. You got 400 young people and how many mentors?
We got about 30 mentors.
You're in how
throughout
many
the city.
schools?
We in about 11 schools right now.
And then you have your own sites that you do 3 days a week.
West Side, South Side, and Calumet City.
You've grown.
Yes.
This takes money.
Yes.
Oftentimes nonprofits, particularly those that are focused on the same kind of issue, find themselves competing,
Sure.
over the scraps of money that are out there for grants or what have you. But you've taken a whole different approach.
Yes.
You've brought them together and
Yes.
said, how can we be stronger, and share our knowledge and go for the big money.
Absolutely. Brilliance and Excellence is a consortium of CEOs and leaders throughout the city of Chicago that also run mentoring programs. And we said, we're not going to compete, we're going to complete.
Okay.
We're not going to have this struggle where somebody put a little $10,000 grant and it's 100 organizations fighting. They only gonna give it to 3 people. And now you got 97 people upset that the 3 got it, and we're not gonna work together.
And they're not getting that much. They're getting like $3,000. So together you can present, and you can kind of help people where their gaps are. If they don't have performance data that helps them get grants, you help them to do that. And at the end of the day, yes, we are bringing out the genius that already exists in our young people, but especially the smartest ones, if they don't get that guidance, they tend to go in the other direction altogether and make us all unsafe.
Yes, absolutely. So, but the Brilliance and Excellence are brothers who really care, that support the mission and vision, not just of their own organization, really important, but the city. And when we talk about boys and young men of color, we're saying, how can we work together to make greater impact, or what we call population level change, where we see actually communities thrive from the efforts of multiple organizations, saturating the space in every sector, in every field. So it's not just nonprofits or CBOs, it's businesses, it's faith leaders, it's government officials, it's the philanthropic community coming together.
Because really everybody should be, has a vested interest in it's violence prevention, really. And all we talk about is how can we stop it? Well, here's a way. When you talk about collaborating as opposed to competing with the like-minded individuals who are in this work, I don't know if, because you're so low-key. Every time I talk to you, you know, you don't say, I'm changing the world. I know you're changing the world, but you never quite say that. You know, you'll say, I've changed this individual's world. So just to make sure that people are aware of just how great the work is that you're doing, I've invited someone to join us who's in your Excellence and Brilliance coalition of CEOs of like-minded organizations who are, you're probably going to guess who it is, because he's the one that first told me about you.
Yes.
And the more I learned, the more I said, you should be, I mean, we should all know about you. You should be front page news, because if you were doing something terrible, come on over here. If you're doing something terrible, you'd be front page news. So Kareem Quo Wells.
Whoa, what's up, man?
What up, man?
What a surprise.
What up, what up?
Uh-oh. I got to give him some love.
What up, boy?
My brother right here. Good to see you, man.
Love, man.
So-
Good to see you,
see you,
bro.
brothers.
Yes, sir.
So I just want you to know, your reputation preceded you. Before I ever met you, Kareem said, you need to talk to my man Vondale. My man Vondale, he's doing this, he's doing that. These young people up there soaking it up and they're changing. And then he's a mentor to mentors. Would you describe Vondale as one of your mentors?
Yeah, you know what? I would say, you know, believe it or not, I'm actually way older than Vondale.
It's not about age.
I'm actually way older than him.
And don't date yourself.
Right, I know, right? But yeah, Vondale, the first time I ever met him, you know, I was a guest speaker at Comer. And
Gary Comer Center is one of your sites.
Lady by the name of Emily Emmerman said, hey, I need you to come speak. You need to meet this guy named Vondale. He's doing something really great here, and I think you need to come speak and hang out with him. And I went, and I remember just being like, man, I've been to a lot of places. I'm from the West Side, right? I've been to a lot of places, West Side, South Side, different organizations. And when I met Vondale, I said, yo, this brother really doing it. He's really, really in their lives. They respect him. They all were dressed the same. They all moved the same. They all, I mean, they had this chant, you know, they had the all in, you know, the creed. They did all these things, and I remember leaving there going, I got to get back with this brother. Any resource I got, I want to bring it here.
That's what
I was in that space, in that mindset out the gate, because you just really the MJ of mentorship. He's the Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, MJ, whatever you want to call it.
Whichever one you take, the best of that. Okay.
Is right there.
Wow.
And,
So,
yeah.
and you have a similar, you also benefited from a mentor, because your young life wasn't exactly headed to Harvard either.
No, it was not. It was absolutely the same story. You know, when I was 14, 15, 16, I'm in the street selling drugs. I had mentors my whole life. Didn't realize that the word mentor, that's what they were. They were just people they were like superheroes to me. They were like guys who I watched, the flyest cars, they had money, they knew people, they were popular. A guy by the name of Chief, who was a guy that was in the streets, who taught me everything about the streets, you know, from young teenage to, you know, a grown man, you know, and he was still my mentor. I don't care what anyone says. He was a mentor, because guess what? When the time came and he saw I had a little bit of talent, you know, he saw I could, you know, do music and rap and write and do all that, he was like, this not for you. So he pulled me out, and his name was Chief for a reason. He was really well known, and when he said, you no longer can do this, you got to either go back to school, because I got kicked out of school for selling drugs, and you know, that life. I had a baby at 16 going on 17, had my first child. He was like, you got to either go back to school, get a job, pursue your music. Those three, you can't do this.
Wow.
So he mentored me. And that is something that changed my life. And then you fast forward all these years, I run into a guy like a Ivan Dupé, who produced music for radio and television, and I run into Vondale, I'm seeing these different mentors. That was the first time I ever saw a black man that graduated from college, went for engineering, did his thing, and first time I ever saw that type of mentor. Then I saw this kind of mentor, and I was like, yo, this is all different.
Yeah.
And to see Vondale, the way he interacted with other organizations, because I saw that too.
So this brilliance and excellence, excellence and brilliance, which one is it?
Brilliance and excellence.
So you actually, how many organizations? So these are organizations focused on mentoring black youth.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And instead of saying, you know, I'm better than you or you're better than me, you guys are working together. How many?
So we have over 50 organizations. It was 80 that actually registered to join our march. That's a whole nother thing that brought us together, where we marched with 1,000 boys and young men of color on the south side, on the west side. Now we're going back to the south side again.
When is it going to be?
It's going to be June 14th,
Okay, put that on your calendar, folks.
2025.
So I gotta ask, because I know that you have some great outcomes, but when you're dealing with this kind of very at-risk population, I know you've probably had some heartache and tragedies.
Oh, it's too many to count. That's the unfortunate part of sowing a seed and watching it die before it blossoms. You pour in and you pour in, you pour in, and then it's like the rug is snatched under you and you feel like you're starting all over again. No matter how much success, you can mentor 1,000, but if that one leaves the fold, it's just like all the attention gone at one.
I remember talking to you, Kareem, after I think it was Sean
Holiday.
Had gotten killed,
Yeah.
and you were a mess. You were.
Yes.
It was as if a relative, child. You really the care. You know, I mean, it's hurt. It's like heartbreak.
Yeah, it definitely is. And when you think about, you know, like you said, the work you put in, you put that work into him, you pouring into him, and see that the way he lost his life, like, I don't think I see animals die like that on the streets.
So I promised everybody we were going to also talk about some great news coming up. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but if it has, it hasn't been announced loudly enough. As I said, you know, the good news never gets to the top, but we're going to bring it to the top here. You are now taking CHAMPS mentoring, the blueprint of it, and it'll have a broader impact because you're going to take over the My Brother's Keeper initiative at the Barack Obama Presidential Center. Is that correct?
Yes, so Brilliance and Excellence is what we call the backbone organization for My Brother's Keeper through Obama Foundation. And we're really excited because, again, in order to get to population level change, this is the real work, that us coming together and building a collective table. So I can talk more and more about it, but to see this brother, you kind of caught me off guard.
I know.
I'm still bubbling over that my man is sitting next to me, because we are in this work every single day.
Yes.
And he's doing a phenomenal job with leading our CHAMPS West Side. He's the face of that, along with Brother Derek James, Coach Derek, and just to see the fun that they get to have every Thursday being with him.
Because he's fun. All right, so let's be clear.
Yes, a lot of
he
fun.
said music was how he kind of found his way out of what he was doing.
Yes.
So I just want you to know that Kareem is, everybody, king of the mitzvahs.
There you go.
So every bar mitzvah that worth its salt that happens in Chicago's area, he brings a whole hype crew. He does the music. I mean, those young people having the time of their lives.
Having the time of their lives. And I'm trying to show West Side, South Side, building that bridge to show them the time of their lives and showing them that someone cares, bringing resources. So to even get involved, because I have a foundation, the Quo Foundation. But
know your
genius, work to be unstoppable, own your actions, and explore the world.
Explore the world. That's the part I always mess up. Okay.
So to team up, when Vondale came to me, he was like, "Yo, man, I need you to run the West Side," and I was like, I'm down. I'm down for a couple reasons. One, the whole West Side, South Side stereotype that we don't work together. That, West Side is ghetto, South Side is bougie. Like bourgeois,
that goes back so far,
like
the 1920s. Okay.
And for me, I was on this. I was like, well, something that we both sides have in common is our children. We're losing our children at an enormous rate. They don't have access. They don't have. So we as men, we as people, we as imperfect human beings, we have to do something to help our little imperfect human beings, and that's to show them that they love, to show them that, you know, we care about your education, empowering you and giving you exposure. So that whole thing, like what you stand for, like in my opinion, like, and this is no diss to anybody in the city because we working with everybody, but I'm saying it's nothing wrong with having an MJ and me being Pippen and you got Kukoc, that 90s Bulls thing. It is nothing wrong as long as we win in the championship, and the championship is to get these young boys and young men of color to win.
Y'all are my champions. So I want to find out from you later, and we're going to put it on our website, what people can do to make this go, because this is the answer. And I really appreciate you, Vondale Singleton, CHAMPS Male Mentoring, and Kareem Quo Wells, the Quo Foundation, and King of the Mitzvahs, not to forget. You guys, thanks so much for taking time with me, and the best of luck, and more than luck, support.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So
but I got to say this. Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh,
Yes.
This is needed.
Thank you.
Because I know it's going to be real.
He's like
Let's
my
go.
baby brother.
You already know. Real talk.
Right after this break, I'm back with this week's edition of Robin's Nest. Stay with us.
Every community has a story, a pulse, a voice waiting to be heard. At CAN TV, we bring these stories to life, from the heart of Chicago to your living room. Join us in supporting hyper-local television. Your backing helps us cover what matters directly in our communities, unfiltered and upfront. Help tell the important stories of our communities. Become a program underwriter today.
I surely hope you were intrigued and inspired by the work that Vondale Singleton and Kareem Quo Wells are putting their hearts and souls into to save the hearts and souls of young men and boys who can be so great, but they're forced to carry the weight of so much they cannot control. In these modern times, most of us are familiar with that term ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. At first, it was defined as bad stuff just happening within your household or your family, violence, abuse, hunger. But many researchers today say ACEs also includes things like neighborhood conditions, wretched schools, racism. With the entire world and all its riches visible in the palm of their hand, and at the same time light years beyond their reach, Black young men and boys in many of our neighborhoods cannot even imagine getting from here to there, one step at a time. Having someone to show them the steps, walk with them, to sidestep the hazards, to find the opportunities, that can make all the difference. Now, not everybody is cut out to be that someone. You got to stay in your lane. Don't be out there trying to mentor young people if you don't even like kids. But we all benefit. So shouldn't we all do something? Maybe you'll consider supporting in any way that you can, from volunteering to inviting a group to learn about your career or industry. Of course, you can always write that fat check or whatever amount you can do. It all adds up in our favor. We all do better when we all do better. I am thanking Vondale and Kareem for sharing their story in other news, but even more for being on the ground saving the future, and you for helping them stand on solid ground. I'm your host, Robin Robinson. As always, I appreciate your attention. Feel free to reach out with your comments, questions, suggestions, robinsouthernews@gmail.com. After all, every relationship begins with a conversation. See you next time.